everyone, I'm super excited about today's project. It's called the Lattice Star Quilt. It comes together super quick and easy. Let me show you how to make it. All right, to make this quilt, you are going to need one package of 10-inch squares, and I use this beautiful collection called Sunday Brunch by Tilda. I absolutely love it. It's just whimsical and soft, really beautiful. For my background, I chose natural, and you are going to need 7 yards of background fabric, or if you pick a color that is available in those pre-cut 2.5-inch squares, you could grab 7 packs of those, and then you will only need 4 1/8 yard of background fabric, which will actually save you a ton of cutting. So it's a great option if it's available to you. And then you'll need 1 1/3 yards of accent fabric. I use this kind of slate blue, it's really beautiful. And then you'll need, for your binding, 7/8 of a yard, and for your backing, 9 yards with vertical seams. All right, so to make this quilt, we're going to begin by cutting our 10-inch squares. And so I am going to just line this up on my mat, and we're going to cut all of them in the exact same way, but you do want to keep your prints together, kind of in sets. And so I'm going to cut 2.5-inch strips across my square. Make sure I'm straight. There we go. There's 2. 1 more cut. Okay, so now I'm going to stack these up because I find that to be the easiest. And I am going to cut these all in half so that I end up with 8 rectangles that measure 2.5 by 5. There we go. All right. And so now we are going to take our background fabric on these. Let me get a few of these background squares. These are just 2.5-inch squares. I'm going to take 2 to begin with, and we are going to snowball from here to here and back down on both of these. And you're going to do the same thing with all of your rectangles, but I have a few of them already done. So let's go ahead, and remember, if you want to press a line or draw a line, you can. I'm just going to use my diagonal seam tape this time. So we're going to sew from point to point and back down. There we go. All right, I'm going to start at that point, and we're just going to sew to this opposite point here, and then I can pivot and go the other direction. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on this one, and I'll meet you back here. All right, so we have both of these done. We're going to go ahead and trim off the excess, leaving our 1/4-inch seam allowance. So I can just trim there and here. And same on this one. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and press these back here at the ironing board. Just roll those back just like so. And then this one. All right, there we go. And so our rectangles should stay 2.5 by 5. If you need to square them up, of course you can do that at this point. But next up, we are going to take that accent fabric that we chose, and I have cut it into 1.5 by 5-inch segments, and we are going to sandwich it in between our 2 little kind of flying geese units. I do want to point out, I designed this specifically so once these are sewed together, you're losing this point because I wanted it to look like they were hidden kind of behind this lattice work. So don't fret if you don't keep your point. I planned it that way. So let's go ahead and sew this down using a 1/4 inch seam. There's that first side. I'm just going to give it a quick finger press so I can add the other side. You want your points from your print to be pointing towards that accent fabric. Take a few stitches and then line everything up. Okay. There we go. Let me give that a press. I do like to kind of press it towards the center so that that accent fabric is hidden underneath the middle there. There we go. Beautiful. And so you'll see what I mean, how you lose those points, and that's exactly how I planned it. So you're going to repeat that and you'll have 4 blocks that look exactly the same. And so now we're going to work on what will be the center of our block, and to do that we're going to make a strip set. So I have cut some 2.5 inch background strips by the width of fabric and a 1.5 inch strip of our accent. And I'm just going to sandwich that in between our 2 background strips and sew it together in one long set like I have here. So let's go ahead and set this aside. And once we have them all sewn into our strip set, we can line it up on our mat here, and we're going to cut these into 2.5 inch segments. I'm going to go ahead and trim off this end here. There's one. Now that we have a straight end, we're going to measure in 2.5 inches. And so for every block, for the middle, you're going to need 2 of these, but you can just cut your whole strip set so you have a bunch of them ready to go. And then this is a really fast place to use some chain piecing, so you can make a bunch of these at one time. There we go. All right, and I would just continue, like I said, until you have a whole stack of these little units ready to go. So just like we did before when we had those flying geese units and we added the accent strip in the middle, we're going to do the same thing, but for this portion of the block, it's going to measure 5.5, so 1.5 by 5.5, and I have that ready to go, and we're just going to make this little plus block. So let's go ahead and take this to the machine, and we'll sew one of our little strip set units on either side of that accent strip. Again, we'll give that a little finger press and add this one to the other side. If you are really worried about those lining up, you can kind of pin them in place as best as you can, but honestly, I feel like it's pretty forgiving, and so I just trust that it's all going to work out in the end, and I just line up my fabric and stitch it down. There we go. All right, so we'll go ahead and press those as well. Again, rolling towards that middle accent color so that it doesn't pop out behind our background fabric. Okay, there we go. There is our middle block. And so now we can talk about assembling this block together. And so I have my little star leg units. This is of course going to be the center that we're going to build this around. And then these are going to meet up so that that lattice work kind of continues out, just like so. And for the majority of the blocks, you are going to just use these 5-inch squares in your corners, just like so. And so when you sew it all together, you get a finished block that looks just like this. Now the magic of this quilt is that I use these kind of half blocks, so to speak, around the edge. And so I know when you see it, you see this open space and you think this is the block with some sashing, but that's actually not at all how it goes together. So this is our star block right here that fits in there. And so the whole middle section here is made using our star blocks, and then each of the 4 corners has a full star block, just like you see here. And so then to switch it up a little bit, all we're going to do is we're going to remove these 3 pieces, and we will add a 14.5-inch rectangle in its place. So then once it's all sewn together, those blocks look just like this. And so then we set this in on the tops and bottom and side, and that's what kind of gives you this really fun woven lattice look of this quilt, which I just love. It's really unique, and it's one of those like surprise once you set these blocks together, which is super, super fun. It's really quick and easy. I hope you guys enjoyed this lattice star, and I can't wait to see yours. I'll see you next time. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching at home. We're so excited to be almost 1 million quilters strong here at Missouri Star. And so if you haven't already joined our family, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of all of our future tutorials, and we'll see you soon.